just point cut just a little bit at that bottom edge. So it's not too heavy there.
DJ will be here, I think it's in June.
Oh, nice. Now I know some of you guys, who was there? Who was at the class up in? Oh, sweet. Cool. Awesome. So now as I'm working, it's got a little bit to do through the top here. Checking my ridge. Got my little overhang, so I'm just now looking, see if there's any other opportunities through here. Lifting up the hair, point cutting in, keeping the blades moving, keeping the comb moving. And when you're moving and cutting, it's called kinetic cutting. Kinetic is moving, so moving, waltzed cutting, kinetic cutting. And when you're doing that, you're creating spaces, and you just got to practice it, because I mean it looks you know, like pretty easy, but when you're moving, the pace of the comb, the pace of the scissors, all those things come into play. So I'm checking it along the weight line, top of the ridge. So I'm moving the comb, and then I'm also moving the scissor back and forth, making sure I'm just going in with the points, so I'm really just focused on a little bit of weight reduction through there. Lowering my body, seeing if I see any shadows. Because sometimes it could be the shadow from the bone structure, and sometimes it could actually be shadow from a little weight that you want to remove. Especially on a round grad, right here is the heaviest point. So that's where I'll spend a little time just making sure I've got the weight where I want it to be. And as I comb through, there's a little bit of a drag in the comb. So when I feel the drag's a little tight, like it's moving through smooth right there, but then it gets a little tight right there, that's a little indicator that I need to create some space in there because the line is too tight. So when you feel that drag in the comb, it's actually a good thing because you made it really, really tight. Your lines were like so lined up that the comb can't get through the hair. It's just like when you cut the end of a broom and all the lines are cut, all the bristles are cut at one length. It's real thick on the bottom. And that's what you're seeing. When your comb is getting stuck, you're seeing there's a blunt line right there. So then you're pointing into it just a little bit. Why that's important is because that's going to give the hair opportunity to grow. Like this haircut's going to need to be redone in 5 weeks. Not 5 weeks in 1 day, not 4 weeks in 6 days. 5 weeks exactly. At 5 weeks, the shape is going to fall apart. 5 weeks in 1 day, she's going to have her first bad hair day. 5 weeks in day 2, second bad hair day. So a lot of times as hairdressers, we're afraid to give people exacts. But if your haircut's exact, it does have an expiration date on it. Like when they put it on milk, they know when it was made, they know how it was made. They don't put, you know, it's gonna go bad sometime between May 1st and May 18th. No, there's a day on there. Used by May 18th. Same thing with haircuts. So we gotta give our guests exact days and times to come back.
I have a question, Sonny.
Yes.
How do you know exactly when to tell them to come back?
That's a great question. So looking at, like, I look at it as lengths. You know, so when I'm working on a short haircut, precision like this, I know she's got some wave. I know I cut the sides. The sides are gonna have about 1/2 inch to grow before they grow out of shape. So that's where she gets 5 weeks, because hair is gonna grow on average about 1/2 inch, almost 1/2 inch every, 5 weeks. So that's where she'll get 1/2 inch to grow. Now if her hair is medium length, and I cut it right to the shoulder, that half an inch may be 1 more week, or 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks. You know, if she's long hair, the longest anyone's really gonna wanna go with long hair, the layers are still gonna grow. Once that half inch grows out at 7 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes they try to go a little longer, you're not gonna have any shape left. So the shorter hair, the shorter time period they're gonna be out. But it's always gonna be that week, and thinking about how short I cut the hair when it grows a half an inch. If I cut this hair right here at her ear, half an inch is gonna be poking into her ear. She's gonna need to get that adjusted. You know, and as I learn more about her hair, maybe her hair grows slower. She may be able to go 6 weeks. You know, my guys, they can go 4 weeks. But a lot of guys that get clipper cuts, they go so often because the hair just grows all together out and it's like bushy again, because they don't have the artisan approach to where it can actually go 4 weeks. So that's going to be a big, big indicator, the length that you cut the hair. She's looking pretty good. Head down a little. So I just have one more thing to do on the top for her, and then she's good to go. But of course, as you start to look around, you start to see little things here and there. As soon as I took my eyes off and then I came back, I was like, oh, I missed that.
Sonny, we talked before about the frequency of haircuts, and then you were kind of talking about how to book them a little bit sooner. A lot of times I think that the guests will think because they've got such long hair that, twice a year, 3 times a year is plenty. What would you say to that?
That, it's kind of like, it's older, the hair's older, so they would need to come back actually more frequently. They have older hair. Just think about it. This hair, right, as it gets away from the head, it's older, it's been there longer, it's more beat up. It's like having an older car and thinking, well, since it's older, I'm only going to wash it and wax it once a year. The paint's actually been worn more. You need to be waxing that sucker and cleaning that even quicker to protect that paint job because it is older. You see people with those old school cars, they're polishing those things like every day. So when you think about hair, think about the longer the age of the hair, the more attention it needs, the more freshen up it needs, the more trim it needs. Like when someone's trying to grow their hair, that's a great time for them to come in more frequently, because I don't want split ends to go up and start breaking your hair off. So that's things that I think about with longer hair. Like even with those long ones, 8 weeks is like a long time. But you gotta trim it though when they come in, so you don't run into that situation where they're afraid to come back to you.
Yeah, you're paid for what you don't cut off.
Yeah, exactly. So she's got a really sweet little disco happening. I just want to come through and really do some texture to the top. I'm going to take a little weight out of the front, and then she's going to be ready to go to the color bar. So I'm just going to use a vertical scissor. I'm just going to come inside here where it's the thickest, just to create some space. And the vertical scissor comes in so it doesn't change the shape, so she still has the strength of the shape, but I took weight out of the hair. So that weight, sometimes you don't see it until I do this. The weight gives it room to grow, so it doesn't start getting bulky too soon on her, but it still maintains that nice strong shape that I have. That's the main thing I'm trying to do. I gotta leave enough room above my fingers so I can come in vertically. So I'm just going in, taking out the weight, while I'm still able to maintain the shape. I'll work my way across it. Shift down to another section vertically, and I always want to leave 1.5 inches to 2 inches above my fingers. Now I'll move my fingers a little bit too while it's cutting, which is called what kind of cutting? Kinetic. Yes. So you'll see me start with maybe 2 to 3 inches in there. I'll do one pass. If I see an area that's thicker, I might go in twice. Then I'll slowly move my fingers towards the top. So I make the ends a little bit skinnier so they have more movement. It's the last section here. And then if the hair's starting to bend, I'll just bend my fingers to get it starting to straight. Checking the drag on the comb, moves through nice. And then lastly is I want to go in and work through the front. So that little bit of an angle and that little take up of the graduation kind of started what I wanted to create, which is a little bit more of a spotting of the forehead in there. So now I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to come right across you, okay?
Yeah. That'll be the first time I've been stabbed with scissors.
Okay. Well, you said you had a hard head, I mean. So I'm just taking my fingers, I'm just lifting, and I'm just taking out some weight right here in the sides. And I'm standing on her left side, so that means I'm creating a little bit of over direction. Every time I pick up the hair naturally, I'm trying to hold it still, but naturally it's going to be pulled slightly towards me. It's a little lighter, like that.
You can see the other half of the room.
Mm-hmm. So it just gives her a little bit of that reduction. And you know, that's that area where when we had our consultation, you know, sometimes this area gets a little unruly, so this just like lightens it up. So then when the hair is curly and it lifts up, it's actually going to lift up and it's still going to fit her face, but give her a little bit of visual there. And this area right here, so I'm just going to come from the inside. Just take a couple little pass-throughs. Make sure that's light enough. And maybe just on top of it needs to be a little bit lighter. Some deep point cutting in there. And what that does with taking some of that weight out, now you can see it still keeps this slim, but it pushes that up a little bit, because this is as flat as it would possibly be able to get, but it pushes the weight up some. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of point to this. Just kind of checking the balance using the mirror. So I'm just kind of doing this just so I can see as the hair gets a little bit more animated or it's curlier and it goes up, making sure the proportions are still good. The sides are still good. The back is pretty sweet. Just right here in the crown, got a little check all that.
And your price for this haircut in Salon would be what?
Haircut, iron work, $1.80. She said, "Oh shit."
Holy shit.
Holy, there you go. There's just a tad bit more weight that works through there. And as I'm working this, I mean, the main thing I'm doing is I'm thinking about what is this going to look like when it comes back. That's the only, honestly, I care about. I know it's going to look good when it leaves, but the thing I care most about is when it comes back. Is it going to look good? And when your guest comes back and their hair, like they walk in and you're like, damn, your hair looks good. Then you did a great job 6 weeks ago. And that's what I'm most concerned about. Is because I don't want her walking around 1 week looking good and then 5 weeks looking like hell took over. So my main concern when I'm doing a haircut, especially precision work, is to make sure that this haircut looks awesome at 5 weeks and it looks awesome the day she comes back in. And if I do that to the side, then I've done a good job. Now I'm just defining this little point under her chin, making it a little bit more like an arrow, just so it draws your eye to it. That's what I'm talking about. Now we're working. Yeah, girl. This is you. You're about to own this whole city. It's good.
Do you usually talk to your guests while you're cutting their hair? Is it kind of quiet?
I talk to them. I mean, a little bit. When I'm starting to do this kind of work, though, they're scared because I'm all in their face with scissors, so it gets a little bit quieter when I'm doing the detail work.
Is Stephanie here? She remembers how it was when she did my hair.
Yeah, how was it?
Panic mode the entire time.
Oh, yeah?
I told her she wasn't allowed to cry.
Yeah, you took a big change that day, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're kind of used to it now. You're probably like shorter the better. You know that phase yet?
Well, my boyfriend wants me to go like full on like boyish cut. I'm like, yeah, let's take it one step at a time.
Okay. But it becomes addictive. You get addicted to the shorter hair. Once you get, especially when it's right, it's right. You know it's right. It's kind of like, and how do you know it's right? Your guests know it's right. You know it's right. It's kind of like, to describe it, it's like, you know it when you see it. It's one of those kind of things. And they don't know, like you might not be able to say, man, the reason that this haircut looks like this is because of 3 principles of dimension. The height was cut fifth, the elevation, the over direction was here. The depth, you don't have to say all that. And you know you got a great haircut, especially, I mean, when you think about it, it's there, even when you're naked, right? That's what we say. That's when you got a really good haircut. You can't get rid of it at all. And this little bit right here, just getting some of those vellus hairs. They're kind of see-through, so they don't really disrupt anything too much, but when you take them away, what they do is they just make your line pop out a little bit more. That's a barbering trick. You ever see like little kids with like long sideburns, like the little Hispanic kids, and they got like this long sideburn, like this kid got like a long sideburn. It's a illusion because they cut away all the vellus hair, and then it made that little hair that's barely there stand out. Like my little Kingston, I give them like these long, like pointed sideburns. But he doesn't have any facial hair. I mean, he's 6 years old. I can give him some. So it's the same thing with this. Huh?
With this haircut, you said it has a 5-week expiration date.
Yes.
I went back and looked at my photos from when I first cut her hair, and it's been like 8 weeks today.
Okay.
So how do you get that person to commit to every 5 weeks?
I actually had an appointment, but I canceled to come today.
No, I'm not saying specifically. I'm saying
Yeah,
what's some dialogue that?
Dialogue. How do you get that person to understand that their haircut expires?
Well, that would be one of the words I would use. I would let them know, like, I got this haircut. This is gonna fit perfectly. It's gonna need to be revisited in exactly 5 weeks, and I need to know when that is. Because I want to make sure that you're not walking around a minute too long, because it'll grow in nicely the way that we designed it today. It's going to grow in perfectly, but at 5 weeks, it's gonna explode. And I don't want you to be walking around. And I know my schedule. When you call at 5 weeks to get in when you're supposed to, we're not going to be able to get you in until 6 weeks or 7 weeks. So I'd rather just make sure we rebook it today, so I get you the time you want. And if anything changes, we can always make an adjustment. And then we'll look at what day is that going to be. Because every guest, your goal is 100% rebooking. If you go for 100, you might end up at 80. But if you can end up at 80, you know that you're only relying on 20% of your business to call in on the phone. And if you got all these stylists and everyone's doing, say, 60% rebooking, that means that's 40% you're waiting to call on the phone. That means you only got how many phone lines? Somebody is not getting in. especially when they need to get in. So then they're getting frustrated at you, they're getting frustrated at themselves, they're getting frustrated at the salon, and it's really our fault. Because we have to let them know, here's what I'm going to do to make sure that you're in the best spot available. I'm going to book it today. And I'm actually I'm starting to book all of my rebooking at check-in. So when the guest checks in, and if they don't catch it and get it booked at check-in, then I'll book it in the consultation. Before we even go to the wash house, we're talking about the design, and that'll be, and I'll cut it, a little shorter here to make sure you have that length so it grows in, and then at 5 weeks it'll be ready to be retuned. And I know what day that is, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure we set that up now before we begin, because I know it's going to get busy, and I want you to look hot all the time. Does that sound good? And then I'm going to go ahead and rebook them before we go to the wash house. And if you have a partner doing the wash house or something like that, then you can have someone else, make sure you rebook them. Because that's a service. I look at rebooking as a complimentary service, that we provide our guests. Because not everybody does that. Doctors do it though. They take care of us. They don't let us leave without a future appointment. Dentists take care of us. And hairdressers, we got to take care of our patients, which are called guests. Maybe a little Alapui Wild Ginger finishing spray. Just making sure I get all the hairs out of there. A little cool air.
Sonny, tell us what you love about Alapui Finishing Spray being here in Florida and for a precision cut.
I mean, that's all day. That's all I use. Number one, see, we always love what we use, and we love the reasons why. It holds this all day. I've got curly hair, but I don't want this to be curled up, and you don't want it to be that way either. So I actually use it a little bit more aggressively. I probably use a can a month on just my beard. Iron, spray, and spray. But on all hair texture, it gives it that hold, right? It gives it that grip that I need, but it still feels like hair, like I can still touch it. And that's why I fell in love with that spray. If I'm on a photo shoot, I may go a little bit more of a strong or a extra body firm finishing. But when I want my everyday wear, I just want something that can actually get a great grip on the hair and last all day. Keep out the bad moisture, lock the style and shape, and also give me some UV protection at the same time. That's my killer. That's my go-to. That's this guy. So I'm just gonna work this, and she's got texture now. We finished this smooth as possible. We finished it ironwork. We finished it blow dry. And she could be ready to roll just like this, but I'm just gonna do a couple little pictures. So I'm just gonna give her a little bit of spray. And I'm just massaging actually while I'm spraying, just so I can build up some texture, especially where it's a little shorter in the crown.
Okay, so hot off the press smells like vodka, and this smells like whiskey.
Yeah, ultimately, right? Just trying to get you hammered over here.
Down to party, right?
Right. And then as I come to the front here, put a little layer on there. And now, after I put all the spray on, I let it lay there. I like it. It's gonna dry instantly, and then I can still touch it. I can still mold it a little bit. And so if I want to make it more animated, I could just keep on pushing it up, because I've got the structure built into the haircut. So I can go as big as I want, or I can go smooth on the front here. I got this length that I can kind of play with. I'll look at it from all angles. And around the front, I know I want it to be a little bit leaner. That's where I'm actually being an actual dresser, because now I'm actually dressing the hair. And it's a 360-degree operation here. And when you're teaching your guests, I always tell them, you know, make sure about a can's length away. Because we tell them 6 inches, no one is 6 inches, 8 inches. Just make sure about a can's length away. So they'll be like, okay. You show them in the mirror, but so they're getting the best use of the product. And remember I told you about that push and that, that's kind of what I was talking about. You can kind of see it happening a little bit as you look through the sides there.
Gosh, even without color, that looks amazing.
It's all her. Just or over the eye. So you got that little bit of that peekaboo through there. I think she looks phenomenal. Thanks, Shyann, for making my day. Here, you stand up for me?
Thank you for having me here.
Yes, that'll be, you heard the number. Hold on, stay right here. So, just gonna have you turn around. So as you kind of come through here, you know, working this is gonna be more kind of when you think about how her hair is gonna naturally grow in. It's gonna grow in like that. Keep going. And then just really keeping everything tight. This is basic. This is a very, very basic, straightforward haircut. Foundation, understanding the basics, and just combining a couple techniques. So it looks great. We're gonna get some pictures of you, so we can make you win an Instagrammy. Cool, awesome. Thank you
Throw
so
this
much.
out there. The price of this cut is more than twice what I paid for bills.
Bills? Like bills? What kind of bills?
Like electricity, water, gas.
Oh, damn.
What do you have?
But what do you think of the cut, though?
I love it though.
You got
It
one
looks
here,
great.
so that you can, yeah, they'll show you that you get a little spin around. Awesome. So I know we're in our lunch break right now. So do we want to take a lunch break right now?
If you want, yeah, everything's ready to go. It's sitting over there.
Okay, because I know we have her sitting back there too. So I want to make sure. How are